wonderful to look out and see all of your beautiful faces on such a lovely day. Thank you for coming and being part of our annual meetings. I'm Debbie Phillips. I'm your new CEO. Thank you for your trust in me. We're delighted to be able to have so many wonderful partners in the community to work with. So thank you to Stewards for hosting us. I want to also thank our board. Please stand so we can thank them. You'll notice at your table there are some postcards that are addressed to Michelle. Michelle Decker has touched many of us, has helped move things forward in developing the partnerships and building a body of work that is helping to strengthen our community. If you have a memory to share or a funny story or a reflection on something you learned from Michelle, a blessing for her in her new adventure, write a little note to Michelle, stay in touch with her and send her some love from Southeastern Ohio while she is on her new adventure in California. We're really excited about this project. We have been running a crowdfunding campaign. One of our volunteers and the founder really of all of our watershed work, Marianne Bork, has been talking to some local businesses. If you want to lift a glass to help with the Rural Action Going Solar campaign, Devil's Kettle, they're going to be doing a Pints for a Purpose thing where $1 a pint will go toward our solar panel array. And Little Fish, part of one of our Rural Action Kids Days in the fall at Donkey. Really grateful for the community that exists to move this forward and help us walk our talk. This year's theme for our annual meeting is Nelsonville's Edge. Bill LaRue has talked about Nelsonville being on the edge of greatness. And we think it's a really wonderful way to showcase the partnerships that exist and the way that people are able to work together to make real change. Economic development in rural places really requires us to build it ourselves in a lot of ways and be creative about how we do that and work to diversify the economy. So the tours this morning hopefully were a chance to see some of the partnerships that we're engaged in here in the area and the ways that people are working together to lift things up and make real good changes. And it's a fun way to showcase this, and we'll have a panel a little bit later of some people who are engaged in the work here in Nelsonville.
Since 2009, over 10,000 volunteers have served more than 33,000 hours to the benefit of our region. Over 70,000 youth and adults have been educated about our natural assets and environmental practices. In 2017, over 60,000 pounds of material were diverted from landfills by the Zero Waste Event productions because of Rural Action. 34 construction projects were built or maintained by Rural Action's historic watersheds. And those projects prevented nearly 1.5 million pounds of acid and other heavy metals from entering our streams. These are impressive, important impacts. In 2017, over 10,000 pounds of locally grown produce was not just processed, but was lovingly processed across 18 schools through the Farm to School program. 15,000 pounds of locally grown produce was sold at 10 sites in food desert communities through the Country Fresh Stocks program. In 2017, almost 4,300 people participated in 675 hours of outdoor experiential learning through 245 environmental education programs. And I don't know if you've had a chance to talk to kids who've gone through these programs, but I can tell you, you talk to them before and you talk to them after, they have a different understanding. They think about their world and their place in it differently, and that's just a wonderful, wonderful impact. The board spent a good deal of time identifying our newest director and hoping to send Michelle off to the exciting things that she's doing now out in California. We've also been working now for over 2 years on developing a new sense of our mission, vision, and value statements. Certainly they help to explain our work externally to people, but they also help to guide our work internally. At the heart of the mission statement are the words just economy for our region. Helping communities do big things by growing local businesses and jobs, by restoring our environment, by cultivating the next generation of leaders, and creating an economy that's just for every citizen in our region. We value ideas, the voices of all people, that we are living in vibrant, inclusive economies that really enhance people's dignity and independence, and that really serve to empower people. And I think all of these things are things that are so impressive about rural action that maybe a lot of people in the community don't realize happen to the degree that they do. And they happen because of a lot of hard work. So as I prepare to turn over the podium, I do want to recognize one other group, and I'd like to ask all the Rural Action staff if you could just stand and be recognized for a minute. These are the people responsible for all those numbers I read, people who've driven that work. These people have a lot of help. So anybody who this year has done something as a volunteer for Rural Action, just stand up for a minute and be recognized. Anybody who's volunteered since
originally from Cleveland, but has been in the region, graduate of Hocking College. She's always giving away the successes to the team, to the volunteers, which again speaks to the leadership, the genuine leadership that you provided over those 20 years. So I hope you'll join me in thanking her with a round of applause.
Working with Candy. Stand up if Candy was your mentor.
As you move into this next phase of life, we've got a few things for you in holiday meeting. It's a party, but you know. And Candy always leads that, and it's great, and there's always a meaningful activity involved. And this last holiday meeting, so she had us on our backs, we taped up a piece of paper, and the other folks in the room had a chance to come and write down things that they thought stood out about us. We snuck those for you and Alan. We got those framed. Think about this. So strength, passionate, strong, loyal, kind, caring, thoughtful, a wisdom and a steady hand, dedicated and loving, and much, much more. So. And now I thought you might want to say something to us.
Okay, this is really hard for me. It's been my pleasure all these years to serve this community and the people of Rural Action. And I give all credit for the success of our program, our AmeriCorps program, our VISTA program, our community programs, to the people involved, to the members who are so enthusiastic and so amazing. And it's not what I did, it's what they did that counts. And it was very hard for me to come to this decision, to leave this organization, because I love it dearly, but I know it's time to turn the page in my life. So I thank you all, and for everything that Rural Action has given me. Thank you.
If I know what, then I wouldn't have things to the house up and you messed up to get back. Anybody ever find a line?
those who nominated individuals for an award this year and thank our board for selecting our 2018 recipients. Congratulations to those of you who are receiving an award, and thank you for the work that you're doing. Our first award is going to the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. So Michelle Shively, if you please come up.
Hi, my name is Michelle Shively. I'm one of our watershed coordinators here at Rural Action, and I'd like to introduce Chief Leonie Erdos, who is the Chief of the Division of Mineral Resources Management with ODNR, and Ben McCammett, who is one of the managers in the Abandoned Mine Land Program. The Ohio Department of Natural Resources Division of Mineral Resources Management, DMRM, began addressing drainage from abandoned coal mines in Ohio in the mid-1990s when changes were made to the Federal Surface Mining Control and Reclamation Act to allow for states to set aside money for water quality issues. DMRM worked with Rural Action in those early years to fund AmeriCorps Vista positions, to work with communities to assess watershed conditions, and to start or assist community-based watershed organizations. DMRM began sponsoring watershed coordinators in the early 2000s and has continued to provide funding for watershed coordination and support uninterrupted through 2018. In addition to over 20 years of funding, DMRM provides water quality monitoring support by directly funding monitoring activities and lab analysis of samples. Through the set-aside funding and dedicated partnerships to restore streams impacted from acid mine drainage, watersheds like Huff Run, Monday Creek, Meeting Creek, Sunday Creek, and Raccoon Creek have all seen drastic improvements in water quality and aquatic life. In total, over 90 miles of streams have been restored to meet warm water habitat, and hundreds more miles have improved water quality. Wow. So that paragraph right there represents an incredible amount of work and an incredible long-term investment to our region that has resulted in amazing change in our streams. Think about this, 90 miles of stream that have been restored to meet very specific water quality criteria, and hundreds more that have improved to some degree. Think about all of the aquatic bugs and the fish that now live in those streams right in our own backyard here in Southeast Ohio. It's incredible, and it's all thanks to the partnership that was formed by the Division of Mineral Resource Management, Rural Action, the Wayne National Forest, Ohio University, and other partners. We talk a lot in the watershed program about technical stuff. We talk about pH and water chemistry until everybody's eyes glaze over. You've heard enough, but really what our long-term goal is to bring life back to the streams. Our vision is a region filled with clean streams and healthy forests. It's right on the poster over here. And that's a vision that we have shared with the division. And I think that that's why this partnership has been so long-lasting and so fruitful. When people think about DNR, I think a lot of people think of this, government agency, this, like people up in Columbus who are in a office building somewhere. But when I think about DNR, I think about all of the people who over the last 20 plus years have put on their waders and mucked through orange streams alongside our watershed staff and alongside all of our AmeriCorps members and our community members who are working for cleaner water. I think how deep this partnership goes. All 4 of our current watershed staff actually started our careers as ODNR interns within Rural Action watershed programs. Folks who started at Rural Action and formed the foundation of our programs in Sunday, Monday, and Federal Creek went on to work for the division. Folks like Ben, folks like Marianne Bork, who's out here somewhere today, Cabe Shaw, Jeff Calhoun. Folks like Mitch Farley and Terry Van Offeren have now become more involved with Rural Action as both a board member and as a project manager within the watershed team after they retired from DNR. So we have all of these relationships, and it's all due to the people who are incredibly passionate about clean water and about restoring abandoned mine lands and making our communities a better place to live. Clean water is a fundamental building block to healthy communities, healthy economies, and just a better world for us to live in. And without these passionate people who were so supportive, we may not have the improvement that we have. Our streams may still be dead. A lot of the work that DNR does is dictated through legislation, both federal and state, and there's a lot of sometimes seemingly from our thought hoops that they have to jump through. But our Ohio DNR, and our specifically Division of Mineral Resource Management, had an incredibly innovative vision years ago to work collaboratively within communities and organizations like Rural Action. And this is a really radical approach compared to what we see from how some of the other states that are impacted by acid mine drainage, they're not working the way that we do, and they don't have these collaborative relationships and partnerships. And I think that the way that DNR and all of the leadership within DNR, all the way up to the chief, we have seen incredible support for this work, and their willingness to work collaboratively with all of us is to all of our benefit and to our streams. So I'd like to thank you again.
Thank you, Michelle. My name is Lanny Ortis. I'm the chief of DNR. One of the programs I manage is Mineral Resources Management. I want to thank Rural Action for this recognition. This is a big deal for us at DNR. We have been working with Rural Action and the watershed groups now for a couple decades, I believe. And I've been involved personally since the mid to late 90s at Huff Run, so that's where my involvement started. This is really a big deal for us. We're very, very excited to be here today. And I have to recognize Ben McCammon. Most of you know Ben. Ben is really the guy that gets the work done. It's not me. I don't want to take any credit for it. Ben and his staff and working with Rural Action and the watershed groups, they do the work. It's just my job to make sure they have the tools and the funding to make that happen. So I want to thank Rural Action. I certainly want to thank Ben and all the watershed groups that we work with. Thank you.
Program manager at Rural Action. And I'm really excited today to present the Sustainable Business Award to Casa Nueva. Casa Nueva has been a leader in sustainable restaurants since its inception. The worker-owned restaurant was founded in 1985 and began recycling around 1990, with composting following about a year later. They've taken Rural Action's Zero Waste Pledge twice and recycle and compost everything they can, as well as provide takeout containers that are either 100% compostable or recyclable. They continue to source supplies and food from producers with the same values, protecting our land, air, and water, while supporting the local economy and living wages. Additionally, CASA follows these procurement practices to reduce transportation distance and greenhouse gas emissions. Most recently, as a part of their Zero Waste Pledge, they've instituted a no straw policy at the bar and in the restaurant, the first dining establishment in Athens to officially do so, for which they have received overwhelming support from the community. Compostable straws will be available to patrons, but only if they ask for one. Casa Nueva leads the charge toward exemplary, environmentally and socially sustainable practices in the restaurant field. And I would just add that I've had many positive personal experiences at Casa Nueva, eating burritos and drinking margaritas on occasion. But it's been a true pleasure for our team. It's been really exciting to work with Casa and see how you all have really taken the Zero Waste Pledge and just ran with it. I think your Facebook posts engaging the community on this issue received like 1 billion comments and likes, all of the comments being positive, that you're taking this step towards zero waste. That's so important. And of course, all of the many years that you've served us delicious food in a sustainable way. For that, we thank you. So I would like to welcome Grace and Chris and Cole up to the stage. Leslie.
Hi. We are super excited and honored to be receiving this award. We do work really hard, staff education, and sorry, I'm a little nervous, and making choices that help us become more sustainable. And I also really want to thank Mary and Laura and Dylan, who were our Rural Action Vista volunteers who came at 4 o'clock in the morning to do our waste audit, since that's literally the only time between closing and our trash getting picked up that all of our waste was available. So that was really awesome of them, so thank you. Yeah, we could not do this at all without the dedication of our staff too. We're really lucky to have a staff that all shares the same values. So.
In order to get big things done in the communities we work in, volunteers are imperative to our efforts and our success. Many of you have volunteered with Rural Action. Thank you so much. In light of how important volunteers are to our work, we created this award as a small way to say thank you to a volunteer who goes above and beyond. Our inaugural recipient for this award is Debbie Robertson. In Worcester, Ohio, and went to Kent State University, where she studied advertising and marketing. She met and married her husband, Greg, and was swept away into a wonderful life with the Coast Guard for 25 years. They lived in Portsmouth, Virginia, Strongsville, Ohio, where their 22-year-old daughter, Amber, was born, Champaign, Illinois, where their 20-year-old daughter, Emily, was born, Davidson, Maryland, where their 17-year-old daughter, Lindsay, was born, and now Albany, Ohio. Greg was recruited by Ohio University, and voila, just like that, they ended up in southeastern Ohio after living in Maryland for 18 years. Debbie became involved with Rural Action a little over a year ago after battling Debbie Phillips for tickets to the Nelsonville Music Festival during our online adventure auction. I think she found out about us the way many a good folk do through an auction. Started poking around and decided she liked us all right, so she has volunteered with us since then. She's helped with mailings, tree plantings, event planning, and she's also joined our donor development committee. She's always ready for her next adventure with her amazing family, whether it's traveling to exotic lands, trying gardening experiments. Her current one is straw bale gardening, boating, hiking, or just getting muddy with her chickens and dogs. So Debbie couldn't be with us today. She is in Columbus watching her daughter graduate from a homeschool program, but you can see Debbie. She's on the tables. So one of the postcards in front of you guys has her at one of our tree plantings on a very cold, wet day earlier this year. She's a trooper. We do have a message from Debbie. I'm grateful and impressed by the people, activities, and projects that Rural Action works on, and I feel very blessed for the friendship and kindnesses bestowed upon me by everyone there. The best part is that being part of Rural Action doesn't even seem like work to me. It seems very natural, and I'm happy to help out. Thank you, Rural Action, for being such a great part of my life and for being such amazing stewards of our great state. As my dad says, if not now, when? And if not you, then who? So jump into Rural Action, and together we can make a big splash. So.
Good afternoon. My name is Joe Brem, and I direct Rural Action's Environmental Education Program. I'm very happy to be presenting our first Youth in Action Award, and this year's very deserving recipient is Alexis Cure-Haig. Alexis is 17 years old and recently graduated from Athens High School with honors. She has attended Rural Action's Watershed Camp since she was 7 years old, and this summer will be her 4th year as a junior counselor. She was our first ever junior counselor. She was vice president of her school's Key Club and has been an active volunteer for Athens County Children's Services for the past 6 years. This fall, she will be attending Ohio University and pursuing a bachelor's degree in specialized studies, concentrating on sustainability and environmental studies. And I think because she's going to be a freshman this year, that's why we gave her the bowl that will fit the most ramen noodles. You know, as you can tell from that brief bio, Lexi is one heck of a human being. Lexi is a young person who, as an adult, I look up to. All the years that she's been at summer camp, and that's more years than I have been there, I've never, ever once seen her be less than kind and generous to everyone around her. And that's the highest compliment I think I could pay to anyone. Her kindness and generosity has helped over 100 kids have a great and memorable experience at our summer camp program that will stick with them for the rest of their lives. It's important that we're recognizing Lexi and that we continue to recognize kids for their role in our work. It's important for kids to have adults like you guys in their lives that care about the world, but I think it's just as important for us to have kids like Lexi in our lives. Her passion and care for the world gives me and all of you, I'm sure, a very powerful hope for the future. So with that, congratulations, Lexi, and thank you for all you've done for us.
Hi, thank you all for being here today. I'm honored to be receiving this award from an organization that means so much to me, and to be presented this award from such an awesome person who has been a mentor to me for the past several years. Joe and Rural Action have taught me so much about the environment here in Southeast Ohio and the importance of appreciating and preserving our natural resources for generations to come. So thank all of you. I would also like to take this time to recognize Mr. Tony Riley, my high school biology teacher, Michelle Decker, and of course my grandma, Carol Cure, all of whom have made such a huge impact on my life and have influenced me all in unique ways to pursue a career and education in environmental and sustainability studies at OU this fall. So thank you. I hope to continue my work with Rural Action in this new chapter in my life. Thank you.
I'm Erin Sykes. I am the Zero Waste Program Director for Rural Action. And it is my pleasure today to present the Lifetime Achievement Award to Ed Newman. So come on up here, Ed. I first got to know Ed back at OU when I started working in the Office of Sustainability as a GA, and Ed was the Recycling and Refuse Manager, a job he held there for over 20 years. Ed has been working on making this area more sustainable for over 35 years. In the early 80s, he helped bring the very first curbside recycling program in the state of Ohio to Athens, Ohio. Really exciting. During his time at OU, he founded Recyclemania, which started out super small as a competition just between OU and Miami University, and has since grown to a competition that engages over 400 colleges and universities, and now also even has a public school piece of it called Recycle Bowl. So it's just exploded, and it all started right here with Ed. It goes beyond waste as well with Ed. His sustainability, passion, and commitment. He is part of the City of Athens Environment and Sustainability Commission that just adopted their very first sustainability plan within the last year or so. And Ed was a big part of that and the vision in that. He's also the chair of the Crime Solvers Anonymous group. If you have any tips, let him know. He's the chair of the West Side Community Association, where I live. Woo-hoo. We wave to each other on the bike path often. He's the bee inspector, but he's much more than a bee inspector. He really takes the education piece very seriously and really wants beekeepers to be successful, keeping all our honeybees going here in Athens and Meigs County. And he's a lover and a rescuer of old bricks. He's got lots of cool bricks. On a personal note, Ed is one of my role models. I'm 10 years young in the recycling and waste sector. Yes. There's days when you get up and you think, can I work on this trash stuff one more day? My goodness. And then you think, well, Ed's still working on it, and he's not going to stop. And it's oftentimes when I have a hard day, Ed can give me some inspiration to keep going, whether it's venting to each other about what's going on, or whether it's a pep talk along the bike path, but just the inspiration to know that Ed's been doing this stuff for more than 35 years. He's not stopping anytime soon. He still rings our office phone on a regular basis with new ideas, and we still work together on the Athens Hocking Recycling Center board now. It's been a pleasure. Really pleased to give you this award today. Thank you.
Hooey. I look out here and I'm in a room full of champions, you know? So it's a little strange receiving this attention. Feel like we're all in this together. We're all doing good stuff. We have a lot going in our area, in this region, and in these communities. It behooves us to thoughtfully give the good fight and smell the flowers along the way. It's great getting recognition from my peers locally. I had a teacher back in the early 80s, Wes Jackson in Kansas at the Land Institute. He would say, the further away you get from home is where you get more appreciated, like 50 miles or beyond. So I think I finally reached the high point in my life, getting some recognition locally. appreciate it. So, but I already felt that way here. That's why I like it here. For putting up with my crap all the time and supporting me. So thank you. Keep up the good fight.
Often we've had a keynote speaker at this event, and this would be when this person would talk, but we decided we should have more of a panel and a discussion about some of the partners who are making things work well here in Nelsonville. So a little bit of a deep dive into the local economic development work. And I'd like to invite our panelists to come on up and join us. We have Micah Covert from Hocking College, Business Management and Entrepreneurship Program Manager. Emily Prince, the Education Director here at Stewart's Opera House. Dan Voracek, Rural Action's Entrepreneurial Communities Coach, and Amy Spouts, the Marketing Manager for the Athens Convention and Visitors Bureau. Thank you. So that's how we do things in rural places, right? Take a couple minutes and introduce us to your part of this work.
Hi, my name is Emily Prince. I'm the Education Director here at Stewart's Opera House. Previously, I was the Development Director. Prior to that, I was at Arts West. You'd asked us to tell something inspiring. So something inspiring for me, what's so wonderful about being here in Nelsonville, is we recently had an acrobatic show for the Nelsonville York kids, and they came and saw the show. The performers explained to the kids, this isn't a kids show, this is our show we do for everybody, and we're doing this show for you. And they did a question and answer, and the kids had some amazing comments. And 6 months later, it was at the library stage where we were having a poetry reading. Some kids were dangerously running and jumping and flipping. And one of the kids, his shoes was untied, and I'm sort of trained how to just tie shoes everywhere I see him. And he said, well, I don't know if you've ever seen Galumpa, but they're acrobats, and I'm going to be an acrobat too, just like them. If you get the chance, you should check them out. That's my inspiring Nelsonville story. Amazing things that happen for the kids are not unusual, and it's just part of their world, and I love that.
I'm Amy Spouts. I've been born and raised here along with Micah too. I'm a true Nelsonville person, Athens County. I was thinking maybe the fourth generation, if not the fifth, that was born and raised in this southeastern Ohio community. My parents taught me to give back to the community. That is something that I and my husband at the time, we instill in our child. And that is something that he is going to come back from his college times and try to do something. I am excited because I was here when Nelsonville was a heyday with all the stores open, every single storefront. You could just do all your Christmas shopping here, you could do education, you could do anything you wanted to. And then we had a dry spot. And so when I came back from Muskegon, Michigan, I made it a mission to get back involved with my community, to see what we could do. And I was in the education field for about 15, 20 years, and I was able to have this opportunity to work with Athens County Convention and Visitors Bureau and be the marketing manager for a town that I have so much passion for. I've been with CBB since June. I hit the bricks literally running. And I have been blessed to be involved with Rural Action and just bring an economic development back. My brother recently left his state job to become the town barber. That was a culture shock for my dad. Like you said, you stayed at a good job and you have great benefits, and this is something he's always wanted to do. So he is a 6'8" barber in Nelsonville. The biggest gossip central that you want is Little Mayberry. In return, like I told my dad, I said it's something that you instilled in us. We need to get back to our community. And he could have went anywhere else to open his shop, but he wanted to stay local. I'm excited because, as you can see, we're under a state of confusion with our bricks kind of missing. But once this project is going to be finished, the tourism, I mean, we are just busting at the seams with visitors coming to Nelsonville. So I'm excited, and as you can tell, I cannot shut up about my town, so I'm going to pass it to Micah.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks, Debbie, for having me, and thanks to all of you. I was telling Eric, I think there's not a rural action event that I don't leave and I'm inspired by the people, by the mission. I love rural action. I think my first experience with rural action was I was in junior high school, and we did something at Hocking College. I don't even remember what it was, but that was where I learned that my house is part of the Raccoon Creek watershed, and how that was different from my friends who lived a few miles away. I grew up outside of town. My name is Micah Covert. I am currently the program manager for the business department at Hocking College, so I run the business and entrepreneurship degree and the accounting degree and the office management degree. I'm a resident and a taxpayer of the city of Nelsonville. The greatest honor of my life is actually serving as president of the Nelsonville York City Schools Board of Education. Been on the school board for 9 years. We, as a board, have a fiduciary responsibility to taxpayer money, so I was trying to think, like, man, what's my contribution to entrepreneurship in Nelsonville? And I'm like, well, you know what? Help manage tax money pretty well over the last 9 years. I also serve on the Tri-County School Board as well. Nelsonville York City Schools and Hocking College are in the top 10 employers here in Athens County, so I'm very fortunate to be involved with them. And the beauty of living in a small town is that we all wear like 5 or 6 or 10 hats at once.
My name is Dan Vorsak, and I've been with Rural Action for about a year. And I did not grow up in Athens County. I wasn't even born in Athens County. I actually grew up in Western Pennsylvania, and by way of North Carolina, New Jersey, and New York, I'm back here. I grew up in a large family. My father was a taxidermist after he was a dairy farmer, so I have some background with trying to make a go as an entrepreneur. The inspiring piece that I would bring to this conversation, since I work with Rural Action, I'm looking at the big picture perpetually, it seems. The inspiration is, I think, really the community of southeastern Ohio and Athens County in particular. And I didn't realize that until we left a couple years ago. Yes, we were one of those families. My wife and I moved here in 2006. All of our children were born in Athens County, but we had this dream to return to New England, where we set up shop there. And it wasn't until you leave that you realize that Athens County works at this. And that's inspiring. So when we had the opportunity to come back, to be a part of economic development locally, I felt this is a good place to do that. And this is probably the most important work that we can be doing right now in the rural communities, because we got to do it. Closer to home, the inspiration is seeing the Nelsonville people, the Pomeroy people, MacArthur, Logan, New Straitsville, Amesville, all of those towns and all those volunteers that have really dug in, put in a lot of hours, put in a lot of thought and imagination to try to make this work better. And we're coming up with some really, really great ideas for how to rally around. I look forward to hearing the stories here, because I feel like I'm looking at this from the outside, but I always take it back in to see how we can use this information.
We have a really great mix of people here who can share some perspectives for us. Those of you who are familiar with the history or lived through some of it, I'd love to have you share a little bit about the historic drivers of the economy here in Nelsonville, how that has changed over the years.
Well, coal, and clay, and brick manufacturing. That sort of goes without saying. It's one of the beautiful features in town, and what we're known for is our brick manufacturing. During the 20th century, small-sized manufacturing, places like Rocky Boots, the brewery, the ice plant, GE up the road in Logan, those have gone away. Those have been our previous economic drivers. Now our economic drivers in towns like Nelsonville are small businesses and tourist attractions. And so we have to have a good mix of those two to make our economy work. And we also know that 99% of businesses, this fact just astounds me every time I read it, businesses in the United States are small businesses. I just went and got coffee after lunch at Fulbrooks, just down the street, so I suggest you all do that too. We in Nelsonville need those small businesses because we know that those dollars not only turn over, Simon could tell me the statistic, like 28 to 1 or 40 to 1. We don't necessarily expect big businesses to come into Nelsonville, and we're okay with that. We know that the future of our town is not based on the Amazon distribution centers that we're going to get, because let's be frank, we probably won't in the hills of Appalachia get an Amazon distribution center. What we will have are the people willing to take risks and become entrepreneurs or think like entrepreneurs. I don't own a business myself, but I teach students how to think like an entrepreneur. If you're working in the arts or for the government like Amy and I, we have to think like entrepreneurs and think innovatively so that we can get stuff done. And that's where we're going now. That's really how I see the broad brushstrokes sweeping across our town. I think we're also pretty lucky in the sense that unlike other towns, people have decided to step up and make a commitment. I just want you all to know that with the renovation of this place, the renovation of the Old People's Bank building that's occupied by the Foundation for Appalachian Ohio, the renovations of the old Nelsonville City High School and Junior High School, the renovation of the future Mary Hill Center on the top of the hill, and then the streetscape project we have going on, that's $20 million worth of investment in our town of 5,200 people. Not because they just wanted to out of the goodness of their heart. It's because we've had local champions who've proved that this place is worth fighting for. And it's not going to be like the past, and we have to be okay with that. So because of that, we have to start supporting those local small businesses and realizing that that's going to be our future, the entrepreneurs.
I'm going to piggyback right on that and talk about also perceptions with the way that the economy has grown in Nelsonville. Stewart's Opera House, for example, is a $1.2 million yearly organization. We employ 7 full-time people. We have about 500 volunteers. And the Nelsonville Music Festival, good time. Everybody getting over their festival feet, the mud, etc. It wasn't too bad. That kind of economic impact is generating $124,000 into local taxes. That the small organizations are getting essentially their Christmas. It's when our local Kroger goes into the black, not in December during the festival, because 8,000 people are coming here and they're spending money, and they're running to the grocery store for firewood and things they forgot. They're coming to the square, and then they come back because they're like, well, this is nice, we're going to come back, and they're filling up our B&Bs. That kind of impact economically is pretty huge when Stewart's is being used as an event center, as it is now. And Stewart's, of course, is also supported by grants. To thank Debbie, who helped us get $500,000 of capital funding for this project, and for our education and community center, which is right next door. That's a huge impact. For every $1 we get through state and federal grants, $52 is generated back into our local economy. So if you're looking at the way any nonprofit is run in Athens, there's a lot of them. This is economic development for us. It's brave people taking chances and that we're working with, at Fullbrooks and the Emporium and Liberty Properties and everyone in the library and everyone here working together with each other to make the place stronger and lifting up the community in that way.
Growing up and knowing my grandparents and their stories, that Nelsonville was really an entrepreneur town. Stuart Brooks was telling a story how they ended up being here is because they were on a boat coming on the canal. They had an accident, so they set up shop, switch as hoodlets, and then it transported to Rockies. That's what has driven Nelsonville for so long, even in Hocking County and Athens, is those small shops. People are hungry for it. Tourism from the Hocking Hills, I grab them as soon as they come in at Rocky, and I ship them right up here, and I said, you have to go see my square. And you talk about all those stores, and so when you do that, it's just like, wow, we are a little gem. I am blessed to have the job that I do because I get to bring in the writers from the magazines and to see their expressions when I'm helping with the tour through Stewart's Opera House and explaining about our star brick, about how big we were world champions at one time at the World Fair for our brick. And that is still very well known. I mean, every place I go, and you probably do, you look down to see if it's a Nelsonville brick or Athens. That's what drove this area. We are blessed. You look around at these old buildings, we are still blessed to have it, especially after the damaging. I mean, 2 fires here and the one down there. I mean, my gosh, how many towns would have just knocked them down and said, you know what, let's turn it into a parking lot. We are very lucky that we do have the manpower and the people and those key stakeholders behind the scene. That was a shakeup that we knew that we had to still keep a little bit of the old, but bring in the new. We're going to be the next hot spot, the recreation and everything. So I am honored to be here.
You're all talking about where things are and where it's going, but there's a lot of pain along the way when there are big economic upheaval. From roundtable discussions that I held and going door to door a lot of times, there are people who still want things to be the way they were, right? And have there be a big employer and you know, a place you just go and get a job. Things have changed, and it hasn't been an easy path. If you could talk a little bit from your experience, what have been some of the challenges, And how did you engage people in the community and build the investment in this vision of how to build a transition in a positive direction?
In Nelsonville, it's better to be sorry than safe. That's how I was put. I just tell people, I'll just be frank, I'll say, there's no rules in Nelsonville. If you want to do something, you do it. If you want to plant flowers in that garden bed, by damn, go plant flowers, because you're going to make your community look nicer. We have that flexibility in our town because we're a charter government, but we don't have as many provisions in the city code or regulations that prohibit some stuff. So that allows us to be flexible, people that want to get some community development projects done. As far as negativity and some change management, I think Amy brought up the bypass. I mean, we have to be frank about things like the bypass. You know, the bypass did affect businesses. McDonald's in Nelsonville used to be a $2 million business. I don't know what their books are now, but I would venture to guess that it's lower. We don't have as many gas stations in town, but the market was kind of saturated, right? The way I view the bypass and the change there is it was really a positive thing because we had a lot of folks who would drive through town, parents and families taking their kids to OU. First of all, they'd only see Canal Street. They'd get bottlenecked in town and then hate it. Oh, Nelsonville's so ugly. I hate Nelsonville. We're always stuck in traffic there. So for me, the bypass is a positive because now people can drive on this beautiful stretch of highway and they see the signage for the historic district, they see the signage for Baroque and Lake Hope being certain miles away, and for Hocking College and the Career Center, and they know that, like, oh, well, there's a destination, there's a place I could go and get off. That is a positive to look at. I haven't seen a study, but I would probably guess that our kids' lungs are healthier now that we don't have all these trucks coming through town. Our Canal Street looks like crap right now, but when they repave it eventually, it's probably going to last a long time, right? Because it's not going to have these 18-wheelers driving on it all the time. That, to me, is a positive. We have to look at those types of things and the opportunities they bring and change the narrative. In Appalachian, Ohio, if we want to play on our strengths and be a part of our national economy, then we need the infrastructure. So US 33 is the main mode of transportation between Columbus, Ohio and Charleston, West Virginia. And it was not a great highway until, I would say, 2013 when the Nelsonville bypass opened. We see more visitors now, people that aren't coming to town because they have to, but because they want to. We're making this place a first choice stop. We're able to look at these things that the world sees as a bad thing, and we have turned into a positive. With our groups in town, the Ministerial Association, the Chamber, Rotary, our various festivals, those folks do the work in Nelsonville. We don't have a lot of commissions. We don't have the vast numbers of business associations that do the work. So when the people who are out there doing the work and making the commitment and fighting the good fight, improving our community, so it's not like we have folks coming in saying, well, you need a streetscape plan. Well, no, we have a streetscape plan because folks in our community decided that's what we needed to grow Nelsonville. You're always going to have naysayers. There's always going to be people out there that will challenge the positivity and the successes that we've seen, but the people who are actually doing the work can guide that story in the direction it needs to go.
They've got to raise a lot of money every day, so they're on the phone making fundraising calls. Many of you get those calls. It's money that fuels the process. It was still a time when Democrats, Republicans could talk together. And not only that, they kind of liked each other. I testified before committees in Congress in the 70s, all on environmental issues. Democrats and Republicans could joke together. For those years from 1968 till about 1976. A good bit of this is being dismantled because it's thought to be unnecessary. And so the unleashing of the power of the market and all of that kind of thing. Looking at the turmoil that was U.S. society in the 1960s and 70s. Remember burning cities and racial unrest and the Vietnam War and hippies and so forth. Powell looked at all that and, like Newt Gingrich and lots of other people, was terrified by it. And so he wrote this memo ostensibly to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, but it was widely circulated to businesses. This was the start of a counterattack on left-wing extremism. Memo and the whole thing comes up. It was an invitation, or more than that, it was an imperative given to corporations to fund a right-wing counterattack against all this left-wing radical stuff. And pollsters began to find Democrats and Republicans didn't want their kids intermarrying, didn't socialize with them, but that's how far that gap went. It became almost like a religious fervor, how Protestants once despised Catholics and so forth. Back, and I didn't use it on this slide deck, but if you go back into the writings of Thomas Jefferson and Abraham Lincoln and so forth, you find that there were real fears of corporate behavior. As no one knows for sure, because there is roughly an estimated $7 trillion offshore that's free of taxes. Guns or knives, Butch, hardball, frisbee, they've been playing hardball. There's a lot of money at stake. This is why we have this income bifurcation. Beautiful book. Not easy reading. It's about the Koch brothers, and she's written some other brilliant books, including one about Art Pope, where Art Pope is the Koch brothers variant in North Carolina. And this is why we don't have campaign law reform. This is the diverging incomes, and this was taken out of the Federal Reserve Bank report that came out not long ago. It's diverging wealth. That $727 billion does not include money spent on surveillance or war fighting or the roughly 885 military bases, and no one knows exactly how many bases we have. In red will be most impacted by climate change. The spirit level, written by Richard Wilkinson and Kate Pickett, you can see that Trump won the real estate war. Conservatism means if there's nothing to be conserved except the rules of the game by which the rich further enrich themselves. Thereby justifying more military expenditure. That's Second Amendment. Read it carefully, read the history. But even as late as the 1970s, it was not interpreted in the rabid way which it's now interpreted, so that we get out of my cold dead hand from Charles Hester. Now, I want to be honest with you. I believe in the right to bear arms in the way that the founders, using the original intention, would have wanted it. Everybody, man, woman, child, has the right to a 6-foot-long, single-shot musket. The economists. Full democracy here, flawed democracy, and hyper-regime authoritarianism. So the United States has gone from deep blue to faded blue. Democracy is fading. And part of this relates to life opportunities. Young people, primarily, below 35, attachment to democracy. If you don't do maintenance on your car or fuel in a gas tank, yeah, your car fails. If you don't do something equivalent for government and take care of it and keep it honest and keep it open and robust, it can fail. The role of being a citizen, all of a sudden it's different. The pronoun shifts to we and ours and us. And the we has to include more than just my little tribal group. It's got to include people that don't look like me, don't act like me, maybe don't even live at the same time as we do. What we will have to do to repair the damage when this is over, reclaim our words, including that word conservatism. Society is a partnership not only between those who are living, but those who are living, those who are dead, and those who are yet to be born. We're eating tofu and ride a bike and so on. That's all really good. I'm not knocking that. Climate change without fixing democracy, I don't think so. I think we now have to become citizen environmentalists.
Gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We singing.